Hello everybody, what I want to do in this video is I'm going to start to cover the syllabus, and I'm going to go pretty much page by page and highlight and elaborate things that I think need to be highlighted and elaborated upon. However, I'm not going to cover every single thing in here, so you're still responsible for all the content. So what I don't go through, make sure you do take the time to read through it and have a pretty good understanding of, some of the more basic policies that, you probably know from other classes or even just being a university student. Now, on this first page is just some very basic information. The name of the course, The Psychology of Being Human. This is a special topics course, so Psycho 305. Now, here you see, my name, of course, my email. With my email, make sure you do have the one, so msharp1@ualberta.ca. If you don't put the one on there, I am not going to get your email, and that could be quite problematic if you're really trying to get a hold of me for some emergency reason. So just kind of use this as a warning. Now for my office and office hours, because of the whole pandemic situation, I'm just going to do everything online virtually. So I'll use Zoom or Google Hangouts or whatever we can agree upon. And basically what you would do is you would just say, send me an email. Hey, I would like to set up a meeting with you. Here are some potential times and here's what I would like to discuss. However, just please make sure, again, you send it to the right email handle, so msharp1@ualberta.ca. And also, please put Psycho 305 in your subject of the email. This lets me know what class you're in. I'm teaching 3 classes right now, so it helps me kind of keep things a bit organized and straight. And, if I need to see if I, caught up with all my emails in a particular class, I can just type in that class's name. So, Psycho 305 would be a great help to that. And if you don't, I may not necessarily respond or remember to respond. Now, the TA for this course is Lily Cypher. She's been a TA of mine before. She's really good, but she's mainly going to be helping just kind of grading some of the assignments and the exams. And then this class will also have a discussion component every once in a while, and she'll help with some of those as well. But overall, you may not have a lot of contact with her. There's really no reason to email her, with the exception of, if she grades an assignment, I don't know why she graded it the way she did. I might have you talk to her, and that will kind of be a way to address that issue. Now, as far as the lecture room and time, because this is going to be a remote delivery, we won't actually have a room itself. However, I will be using kind of virtual classrooms such as Zoom for some things like group and class discussions. Now, the times is going to be Thursday from 5 to 8. That's the scheduled time. However, most of that's actually going to be kind of, set aside for you watching the lectures. However, there's going to be days that there might be an exam, so the exam will take place during that time frame from 5 to 7, as well as some discussions based on the topics that we're covering. And the schedule for that is going to be on the final page of the syllabus. But I'm going to have the schedule for those group discussions from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. on Thursdays. So that basically gives us an hour and a little bit of extra time if people, want to finish up and continue their discussions, they can do so. But I'll kind of go a little bit more in depth on these discussions when we talk about, some of the assignments and assessments. Now for this class, we don't have a textbook. There's going to be some selected readings and the references will be found on eClass. And I'll make sure that those are posted at least 1 week before the scheduled class. And the references will be kind of set underneath the topic that they'll be set up. And you'll see that in eClass. And then lastly, we have just some important dates, mostly just based on the university. The bottom is more specific to this class with the scheduled dates for the 2 exams and the deferral for the final exam. But just kind of keep these in mind, if you want to perhaps drop the class, the best time to do that is September 15th. But if you want to withdraw or, whatever those dates are there, reading week is going to be that, week of November from the 9th to the 13th. So, I would maybe find a calendar, put these dates in there just so you have them easily accessible. Now, let's talk about the course in a little bit more depth, starting with just the course description and objectives, then go into some of the aspects of lecture. And in a separate video, what I'll do is I'll probably talk about the various types of assessments, so exams and assignments. So what is this course? Well, basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at the human concept through a psychological lens. And when I talk about the human concept, I'm going to say, well, how do we understand what does it mean to be human? How do we define it in our minds? And how do various conceptions inform our understanding of that within the real world? Then we'll talk about how does that relate to things such as dehumanization, so the denial of somebody's humanity, objectification, which is, I would argue, a form of dehumanization, but we'll actually talk about the debate whether or not it's something of its own or it's kind of a sub form of, dehumanization. And then also anthropomorphism, or, treating or viewing something that is not human as human or human-like. So I'll talk about these three different concepts quite frequently. So dehumanization, objectification, and anthropomorphism. Then we're going to talk about how these topics are studied within the psychological literature or through a psychological lens. We'll also talk about some of the processes that give, rise to dehumanization, objectification, and anthropomorphism. And we'll talk about some of the real world outcomes, both through, various types of studies, as well as a look at a lot of different moments in history and current events. Now, because we're going to be talking about dehumanization and objectification, what that means is we're going to be talking about a lot of things that are controversial, uncomfortable, unsettling, and basically just a huge bummer. So these things are going to be things like stereotypes, discrimination, prejudice, aggression, genocide, sexual assault. All of these different things have a very important relationship with how we understand and attribute the human concept. And when we talk about these, in some cases, we're going to talk about, well, how does somebody understand what it means to be human and how that may actually relate to somebody's willingness to engage in dehumanization, for example. So there are definitely going to be a lot of dark moments in the lecture content itself, but there's going to be also other conversations that we have that might be more positive. So how does the human concept contribute to more pro-social behavior or even like mental health and well-being in the context of anthropomorphism and, let's say, pets? So I give this long, thorough warning, mainly just to kind of highlight that throughout this entire course and almost every video, we're going to be talking about some dark aspect of humanity, whether it's human nature or human history, or even just current events. But I'm giving this warning mainly just to note that, we're going to be talking about a lot of uncomfortable things, and, you might have to stop a video just to, kind of collect yourself. However, you are responsible for everything that's talked about in this course through the lecture videos, other videos or podcasts or audio files that I put up for course content, the various types of ratings, and also even some of the main discussion points that I might have if we have an in-class discussion. Now let's talk about some of the objectives for this course, or by the end of the term, what should you be able to do? Well, first, you should be able to describe the various ways researchers and the general public understand the human concept. How do people define what it means to be human, whether they do that for a living through psychology or philosophy, or somebody that's just off the street? Second is going to be to explain how the human concept is studied in psychology, including identifying and explaining various theories that are related to the concept, and describing how those theories have been and could be tested. So this is going to be largely research methods, tied with using those research methods to test the various theories that we're going to be talking about. Third is going to be able to explain the processes and outcomes of when the human concept is either denied or attributed to some sort of stimulus. So basically, can you tell me why dehumanization, objectification, and anthropomorphism occur, and what are likely events that will lead to the occurrence of those three, as well as what are some outcomes of them existing? And then lastly, are you able to interpret current and everyday events related to, or perceived to be related to, the human concept through a psychological perspective and make educated predictions based on empirically supported theories? So in other words, do you know when the human concept is being denied or attributed within real life, and could you make predictions on what's going to happen if that event does occur? So pretty much all the exams, the assignments are going to be trying to see if you're able to do these based on the course content that you've been provided. Now, some of the technology requirements and recommendations, basically you're going to be required to have some sort of device that, allows you to connect to the internet, to watch the lecture videos or the other videos or audio clips I might post, to get the lecture notes, to access readings, as well as a device that can complete the assignments that you're going to have to complete. So, something with a word processing program, for example. So, what about lecture? Well, lecture is going to be scheduled for 3 hours a week on the Thursdays. And again, we're going to be using some of that time for discussions. Now, what we'll also do though is some of that time is going to be kind of factored in for watching the lecture videos. And I'm going to try to have the lecture videos posted on the Monday of the week of that content. So let's say the second Thursday we're going to be talking about what is human. Well, I'm going to try to have all those lecture videos up for you by that Monday, so you have a few days to get a chance to watch it, and that way you engage with the material a little bit, and that way you can get ready for the discussion. However, on days that there is discussion, I'm going to try to make sure that there's not a whole lot of content, and that way you can watch it during the scheduled time of the class. However, there's not a lot of readings for this class. I'm not going to overload you with a lot of content from, various types of articles or what have you. So some of those videos will kind of help, lift up some of that slack. So the articles that you will be reading are either going to be helping provide a foundation for certain theories or ideas that we'll talk about, or it might be an illustration of something that we're going to talk about. But either way, you should do the readings before you actually watch the video lectures, and that will kind of help make sense of everything. Now, in addition to the lecture videos for course content, there's also going to be some videos from YouTube that will help kind of, elaborate or illustrate certain concepts, or it might even be used to introduce a concept by, someone that was instrumental in that perspective. Now, I believe all this course content's just inherently fascinating, but I'll admit I'm a bit of a nerd. I like science fiction. I like to think of what does it mean to be human, and, all these questions that are just kind of usually tackled by, the genre of science fiction. So to me, it's inherently interesting, but I think it becomes even more interesting and it really comes to life when you're actually able to talk about these ideas with somebody else. So because of that, I'm actually going to be implementing a lot of group discussion in this class. So that way you can take these things that you're, learning about or reading and try to apply it to, various types of situations or various questions, and getting somebody else's perspective as well as maybe refining your own. So you'll have to make sure that you are available around this class time to be able to have those discussions. And this is going to be very important for the assignments because there is a group discussion component, as well as the participation reflection papers that I'm also assigning. And those are actually going to be a required component for those reflection papers. So I should note also that everything in the lecture, videos may not necessarily cover everything in the assigned readings, and everything in the assigned readings may not be discussed in the lecture videos. Regardless, you are responsible for the content of pretty much everything given to you in this class in one form or another. Now, when I post the video lectures, I'll be also posting the lecture notes, and these are going to be very important to kind of use for your own note taking. And that's because the lecture videos are not going to have a lot of information on the screen, and it's going to be up to you to take your own notes. So keep that in mind. I'm going to try to make sure to include all the different researchers and authors that I talk about, their names, and if it's important, their publication year. You're not going to be required to know the publication year. It's just going to be helpful for you to maybe kind of distinguish things that come from the same person or a group of people. Now that's going to be it for this video. In the next video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus more on the kind of the nature of the grading for this course. So I'm going to talk about the distribution of grades. So like what are the various cutoffs? What are the various different types of assessments I'm going to be using? And what the weights of those are. So that's what we'll do in the next video. And until then, I'll see you.